Hello learners, welcome to today's session. Today we have a very important and interesting topic of discussion. It is all about waste. What are the waste substances? What are the sources of the waste and what are its various kinds? So this topic, sources and types of waste, is related to our program Certificate in Solid Waste Management, which has a course BEV 001 Introduction to Waste Management. So learners, you must have known a lot about waste. We talk about waste management nowadays, and recently we observed Swachhata Hi Seva campaign of the government, in which we made all efforts for cleanliness. And the first step of cleanliness is removal of the waste, proper disposal, proper mechanism of minimizing it and seeing that it is scientifically and properly disposed so that it does not pose threat to the environment or human health. So, first of all, let us understand what is waste. It's a very common term. We use it very often. But what it is? How do we classify a substance or a product and say that it is a waste substance? So, according to general observations, according to what we see all around, we can say that any solid discarded items for everyday use, whenever we are using anything, whenever we are consuming anything, or whenever we are producing anything, there is always association of the waste generation. It is inevitable. It is not possible that any activity is not producing any waste substances. So, these are the byproducts of the manufacturing or the production activities, or these may be some substances which may be of use at certain point of time, but later on, once their utility value decreases or when they are broken, they are discarded. Means they are not of any use. Or it can be any product that the owner, supplier or processor does not need is waste. Now this is true when we talk about the industrial processes. There is a lot of industrial activity going on nowadays. You must be aware of it. So in the industrial activity, we process the raw material, we put it into different use, and once the end product we have it in our hands, then what it is being done to it, that most of the substances which we do not need, it may be paper, it may be plastic, it may be some metal, it may be glass, any item which we are not requiring it, which the manufacturer does not require for that particular industrial operation, that is a waste. Or in some other countries, it has got several different terminologies. You must have heard about it. When you read about waste management, there are terms like some countries, refer to it as it is a refuse, or they call it it's a garbage, or you call it as a trash. So different terminologies have different meanings and also different items which come into it. So, according to some companies, waste is all which does not have any value. So, once we come to know that this particular packaging material or this particular electronic item, if it does not have any value to us, so all that is waste is the substance which does not have any value. So once we assign a value to a particular substance, we won't call it a waste. So according to today's times, all those substances, all littering which we are seeing all around, all those garbage, rubbish which we are throwing outside or which we are ending up in the landfills, these are all those material substances which we feel that they do not have any value assigned to it. They are not of any significance. And we must understand that although it seems to be very simple issue, it seems to be it's not of much significance, but in today's time, solid waste or general waste generation is one of the gravest environmental concerns. It is very serious issue because it is not that we are not happy because it reduces the aesthetic value of our surroundings, but more so, why we are worried is that it is leading to several other problems, particularly environmental pollution. Because it is there on this same planet, when it is burnt, it leads to air pollution, it leads to the release of various toxic gases. It causes water pollution. If it remains in the soil for several million years, it also leads to entering of the various harmful chemicals into the soil. So it is something which is of a prime concern today. You talk about the waste category and you find that all the types of the waste which we are seeing all around are here. And we can see the heaps of mountains of garbage outside our cities. So it is something which is very important for us to consider, and more so, waste is a multifaceted and complex issue which requires a range of factors. See, we do not say that it is only an environmental problem. It's not just that we are only thinking about the pollution which is happening because of the waste improper disposal, but also it is a social problem. We see various rag pickers, women, children who are visiting these landfills, and they are collecting the valuable recyclables from these heaps of garbages. It also is a social problem because people are forced to live near the landfills where the water is filthy, where the living conditions are not at all favorable. And why a certain group of the people, they are having their livelihoods on the basis of that. It is an economic problem because when we discard materials, it is an economic loss because we have spent a lot of energy, materials, water, other resources into the manufacture of that product. And when it is just thrown away, it is an economic loss. It has a value assigned to it. So it is a multifaceted problem. It is not just concerning only the environmental aspect of the pollution caused due to waste, but also it is a social problem, it is a community problem, it is an economic problem. And therefore, when we talk about waste management, it is not possible without the active participation and the role of all these players. The society has to come, the manufacturers, the companies, the users, the generators of the waste, everybody has to come together to solve this important environmental issue of today. So, waste management is essential for inclusive and sustainable societies. So, waste management is not the job of only the scientists that they come out with any bioplastic. It is not the job of the government to organize such Swachhata Pakwadas or take out any policy intervention, but it is all these efforts are futile unless and until we have community participation, where we have everybody contributing towards waste management. And also it will lead to inclusive and sustainable societies, which is very important. So when we just think about it, then what all do we have in it? Is it only that which is generated from my home? It is only comprising of only plastic or paper. What does it comprise of? So solid waste, on the screen you can see that solid waste means and includes solid or semi-solid domestic waste. That means the kitchen waste will come into this, the biodegradable waste, the fruits, vegetables, peelings, paper, plastic, it may be solid or the semi-solid substances. Then we have commercial and institutional waste. You can go and visit the markets where you find the commercial activity going on, lot of metal, lot of packaging, cardboard you can see, glass you can see, metals you can see. This is the commercial and the institutional waste. Also, the electronic items will come into this. The catering and the market waste, where you have the events going on, where we have the functions going on. It may be social functions, it may be religious functions. Where all this business is going on, you will find waste generation. On the streets, you find that there is a not only the dry leaves, but also you have the silt deposition, dust is there, which is collected from the surface drains. That is also solid waste. It comprises of horticulture waste, it comprises of agriculture and dairy waste. You know that we are an agricultural country, and agriculture sector is also not aloof from the waste generation. Why? Because although it is biodegradable in nature, but we are aware of this thing that agriculture, poultry, dairy, horticulture, these are the sectors which are also generating huge amount of waste. These waste come from not only the processes which are being done, but also the waste which is arising because of the transportation and distribution of the products or the crop yields which are coming out of these activities. And then we have the biomedical waste which is coming out from the hospitals. So all the economic activities you can see. The listing of the solid waste which has been done over here categorically tells you about whatever is around you. All these sectors are generating waste in some form or the other. But then what causes the main concern today is that there are specific types of solid waste. They are the types that on the basis of the pollutant of which they generate, we have named them as a specific different types of the pollution or different type of the waste generation problem. For example, plastic. Plastic is there in the institutional waste also, commercial waste also, it is in our household also, it is also part of the hospital waste. But then it is generated in such a huge amount. It is generated in several. We are the fifth largest generator of plastic waste in the whole world. About 2/3 of the plastic which is being generated in the world, 2/3 of it is coming from our country. Such a huge amount that we call it as a plastic pollution. We have named it as the plastic pollution because they have entered the soils, the water bodies, the oceans, even in our bodies. Even our blood cells have got the samples of microplastic in it. So plastic is a specific type of the solid waste which is governed by different rules which poses its own threat, and we are all set and we are making all efforts to minimize the use of plastics, particularly the single-use plastics. Then we have the sanitary waste, which is also now put under separate categories. Sanitary waste comprises of the diapers and the sanitary products which are thrown, which are not segregated, which get mixed up with the municipal waste, and they are also very means we can say they are also very dangerous in terms of the risk which is happening because of the contamination of the water bodies and the soil. Then we have the construction and the demolition waste. After agriculture, construction is the prime economic activity. And any sort of construction, whether it is the construction of the buildings, but the roads, the dams, you must have seen that the construction activity also leads to generation of the waste materials. There may be stones, there may be electronic items, there may be some plastic liners, there may be bricks, several types of, they may be biodegradable or non-biodegradable, but construction and the demolition waste also is a specific type of waste which is also governed by specific rules, construction and demolition waste management rules. Then the electronic waste. We are in a kind of digital tsunami, and if not today, soon we will be facing the tsunami of the digital devices that we are having all around. Most of them, when they are not used, when they are left unattended, they are accumulating in our ecosystems in various forms. So electronic waste is also, you can see that it is found everywhere. It is generated from every source. It is coming from your institutions, commercial waste, even households are a huge generator of the electronic waste, and this is also governed by specific rules, electronic waste management rules 2016. So these are the specific types of waste which have their unique problems, and the solutions and the management of these type of waste requires altogether different specific approach, which is very necessary. Now, why it has become such an issue today, which is, we must think about it. Why? Some years ago, there was no much discussion about waste management as an issue, because whatever we consumed was generally less, and whatever we threw out through various means and methods, it was not such a huge amount that the nature cannot recycle it. It was generated in minimum amount, and whatever was generated as a waste product, that was of biodegradable nature. So over the period of time, we have not only increased the volume of the waste, but more so that nature and the characteristics of the waste have undergone a huge change. Earlier it was biodegradable, manageable waste, but now it is non-biodegradable, it is toxic, it is hazardous, and it remains in the environment for several million years ago. So let us see that why waste management is an issue today. It is an issue today because there is increase in consumption with the rise of population. More number of people living on the planet, more demands, and not only the more demands due to increasing numbers, but our growing economy has led to production which is enormous, and enormous production means huge, you can say huge generation of the waste in various forms. Lot of waste is generated from various activities. Then there is changing nature, volume and composition of the waste, as I told you just now. Earlier it was biodegradable. It was so less in quantities. It was easily manageable. But now you look at the electronic items which you are throwing, you look at the harmful radioactive waste, the chemical waste, electronic items which are lying like that, all are comprising of the chemicals in them, which remain in the environment for a very long time. There is a crisis of landfills, yes, because we need land for agriculture, we need land for settlement, we need land for industries setting up, we have to build our transportation networks, and so we have less land available to convert it into a landfill. The landfills were earlier away from the cities, far away from the cities, so that it had minimum impact on the people of the city or the village. But now you find that landfills are there in your cities. You can see them. They're easily visible. The animals are roaming there. The chemical, it's percolating into the ground. The groundwater is polluted. By the action of wind, by the action of water, they are entering into the nearby places, and therefore it is a serious threat. There's a crisis of landfills. We do not have much space because land is a scarce resource. It does not grow. It is limited. Then there is a trash in our bodies. Why we are worried about waste management? Because our bodies are having it directly or indirectly. Our blood has got microplastics in it. The samples which have been studied, they also reveal that it is there in our bodies in various forms. We are breathing harmful gases which are coming because of the maybe degradation of the waste which is taking place at the landfills, or when we burn those plastic items, or when we burn that whole waste materials, there's a release of the harmful gases. We are inhaling those harmful particulates which are coming. So we are worried. Why? Because it is there in our bodies through various sources. Then there is agitation from the people. People are aware. Nobody wants to live near a waste management or waste collection or waste handler site. Nobody wants to live at those places, because in many places now the people, the tribals are agitating. They are saying that it should not be in my backyard. The farmers are agitating. It is not like that you can dump your waste anywhere nowadays, because people have become more aware. They're concerned about their health, about the health of their children, about the soil on which they practice agriculture. So there is agitation from the people, and whatever the technologies we are using, whatever the means and methods which we are using nowadays, they are outdated. We are relying on age-old technology to manage the waste today as it was some 20 years before. The same machine for incinerations and same composting techniques which are very inefficient, and they are not capable of handling the huge amount of the waste which we are generating. So whether we talk about recycling or we talk about composting, we have to see that they are made modern with inputs from new technologies, innovations, and so on. So therefore it has become a why concern today, and more so we can say that we are generating more because we find that there are different economy has a role to play, and use and throw culture is one of the most important factor responsible for the huge generation of the waste. Now another thing is that the generation of the waste also depends upon the geographical location. That also plays an important role. Why we say that? Industrial areas generate the waste which are rich in chemicals, toxic hazardous substances. On the other hand, where we have huge agricultural lands, there the waste generation would be more of organic in nature. It depends upon the time of the year. Waste becomes a more serious issue, particularly during the monsoons, where it becomes soggy, where it becomes all mixed up, and the areas which get floods every year, during those periods of time it becomes really very difficult to manage the waste. Similarly, at the time of the festivals, at the time of the events, the waste generation is more as compared to other type of the year. So it is the problem which is very, very dynamic. It changes with the place, it changes with the time of the year, it changes with the seasons, and therefore what is important is that when we talk about tackling about waste management, or when we talk about what methodology we have to adopt to address this issue, we must take into consideration the time of the year, the place, and so many other factors. Population has an effect, urbanization has an effect, and the lifestyle of the communities along with the activities, the commercial activity, industrial activity, agricultural activity. What is the prime activity in that region? That has a most important role in the generation of the waste. Now, when you look around and what all the sources we have discussed just now, when you look into the detail, you find that most of the waste is either dry and the wet waste. And this is very, very basic classification of the waste, because what you see is that your fruits and vegetable peelings or the food waste which is being generated from your homes or agricultural waste, that is a wet waste. Why we call it a wet waste? Because it contains moisture, it is organic in nature, and if acted upon by the microbes, if it is biodegradable, so you can make a compost out of it. On the other hand, all other types of the waste, whether it is a paper, plastic, glass, metal, electronic items, ropes, all these are what? They are dry waste. So they do not get composted, and we need to see that how we can recycle them, what methodologies we can adopt. Apart from that, we also classify waste into solid waste, liquid waste, and gaseous waste. Now, what is solid waste? We have seen. What is the liquid waste? It is coming from the washing, flushing, or manufacturing processes. You must have observed in various industries, you must have observed that black or poisonous liquid is coming out. Some chemicals are coming out. Now, this leads to water pollution also. It leads to soil pollution also. We need to see that the effluents from the industries, before they get discharged into the water body or into the nearby soil, they should be treated. Some chemicals should be added, some method should be adopted so that they are made harmless. Then we are aware of the gaseous waste, or we call it air pollution sources. The different gases which are being emitted into the atmosphere because of the industrial processes. Another way by which we classify the waste according to various categories is either we call it solid waste or the type of the pollutant basically. Just now we saw that yes, it can be on the basis of the pollutant. If electronic item is the pollutant, it is e-waste. Plastic is plastic waste, metal waste, nuclear waste. And another classification which nowadays according to the Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0, the waste is classified into 4 types. It is either the biodegradable types, or it is the recyclable, or it is domestic hazardous waste, or it is the hazardous waste. So according to these categories, we can classify them into the various categories. That is the sanitary waste, the 4th one. So this directs us to segregate the waste into whether it is dry, wet, it is domestic hazardous, or it is sanitary waste. According to this classification, we must remember that waste should be segregated according to the distinct characteristics which they are having. And we have also seen that what are the sources which are coming. We know that it comes from homes, it comes from agriculture, it comes from industries, it comes from commercial establishments, it comes from all the institutions also which are generating huge amount of the waste. And we can say that what we can do after listening to all the sources and all the types of the waste, what comes to our mind is that what should we do to minimize them. We should keep ourselves informed, we should consume less, we should buy less, because naturally less is more. You spend less and you have more concerns for the environment. You should remember refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, saying no to plastic bags, separate the garbage, whatever organic waste is being generated, compost it, stop burning garbage. So with this we come to an end to today's session. Thank you so much.